So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand, every country on earth would be racing to eliminate these policies, and China would be the first on line. They run a very strong country. A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And China charges American rice farmers an overquota, it's called, a tariff rate of 65%.
U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs on a host of nations have brought in multiple requests for negotiation. After months of threatening tariffs on neighbors Mexico and Canada and vowing to undo the wrong of other countries treating the U.S. unfairly, Trump imposed reciprocal tariffs on almost all nations on April 2nd, declared as Liberation Day in the U.S.
If you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here, we didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less, so how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything, but now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You know, you think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually, they're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough, great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46%, and much higher for certain items like cars, you know, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left. He's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades. And it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China and charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe, but they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it.
But there is one nation which has responded strongly and is standing up to Trump's tariffs: China. The U.S. imposed 34% tariffs on China, taking U.S. tariffs imposed on the second largest global economy to 54%. Retaliating sharply, China announced 34% counter tariffs on April 4th, within 48 hours of Trump's Liberation Day announcement. Trump responded to China, saying they have played it wrong and panicked, something they cannot afford to do. He went on to threaten 50% additional tariffs on China, taking the total tariffs against China to 104% if they do not remove the 34% reciprocal tariffs on U.S.
With China, as you know, against my statement, they put a 34% tariff on above what their ridiculous tariffs were already. And I said, if that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on. So they've gone for years. They've become a rich country because of people, again, that were in the White House that allowed this to happen. Hundreds of billions of dollars a year they'd make on us on trade, and it shouldn't be that way. And I have a great relationship with President Xi. I hope it's going to stay that way. I have great respect for China, but they can't do this. We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing. And I'll tell you what, it's an honor to do it because we have been just destroyed, what they've done to our system. You know, we have $36 trillion of debt for a reason. And the reason is that people allowed it to get that way. So we'll be talking to China. We'll be talking to a lot of different countries. And I think, you know, if we can make a really fair deal and a good deal for the United States, not a good deal for others. This is America first. It's now America first. And we didn't put America first. We put America last. The people that were in the Oval Office put America last, and we're not going to stand for it.
Trump said China's tariffs range from non-monetary tariffs to illegal subsidization of companies and massive long-term currency manipulation. If China does not roll back tariffs on the U.S. within 12 hours of imposing them, Trump said he will impose the 50% levy on April 9th. China has responded to Trump's tariffs, with the Commerce Ministry saying U.S. threat to escalate tariffs is a mistake on top of a mistake. Deeming Trump's response a blackmail, China said it would fight to the end if U.S. insists on its own way.
美方滥施关税，严重侵犯各国的正当权益，严重违反世界贸易组织规则，严重损害以规则为基础的多边贸易体制，严重冲击全球的经济秩序稳定，是典型的单边主义、保护主义经济霸凌，遭到国际社会普遍反对。中方对此强烈谴责，坚决反对。
谢谢发言人。中新社记者提问：近日有智库发文称，
我要再次强调，贸易战、关税战没有赢家，保护主义没有出路。中国人不惹事，也不怕事。施压、威胁和讹诈不是同中方打交道的正确方式。中方必将采取必要措施，坚决维护自身正当合法权益。我想美方的所作所为没有体现出想要认真对话的意愿。美方如果真的想谈，就应该拿出平等、尊重、互惠的态度。如果美方置两国和国际社会的利益于不顾，执意打关税战、贸易战，中方必将奉陪到底。
Technology companies are responding to Trump's tariff threats amid escalating bilateral tensions. U.S. big tech Microsoft's joint venture, Microsoft, will cease its China operations from Tuesday, April 9th. This will result in the layoff of about 2,000 staff. Chinese media outlet Caijing reported, citing sources. Trump has called to cancel any meetings with the Chinese delegation to negotiate on tariffs. Chinese local media also suggest that U.S. films will be banned in response to Trump's tariffs. Hollywood films generated more box office revenue in China than in the U.S., as per recent data, Xinhua reported. Markets globally have suffered from Trump's sweeping tariffs, and China has ironically defended free trade in the WTO, something that former U.S. President Bill Clinton believed would bring China to play by global rules. China has conversed with Japan, South Korea, and the European Union, which face Trump's tariffs. A high-level America First trade policy report submitted to Trump observed, more than 2 decades after being granted PNTR, China still embraces a non-market economic system. USTR carefully reviewed legislative proposals related to PNTR and advised the president accordingly. The report details how U.S. imports from China increased from $100 billion in 2000 to $463.9 billion in 2024, while U.S. trade deficit in goods with China ballooned from $83.8 billion in 2000 to $295.4 billion in 2024. China took full advantage of the openness of the U.S. economy by leveraging its state-directed capital investments and subsidies. Industrial overcapacity, lax labor and environmental standards, forced technology transfer policies, and countless protectionist measures, it said. Trump's tariffs indicate looming recession in its own economy and worldwide, with a protectionist approach to retain trade and investment. China, on the other hand, is also looking to leverage the impacts of Trump's tariffs for strengthening its own global position. At the start of the Cold War, China took advantage of the opportunity to get UNSC permanent membership with the help of the Soviet Union, which it dumped later to side with the US. It also used the chaos following the disintegration of the USSR in the 1990s to get into the WTO with the help of liberal Western powers,